Eruption disruption. Iceland's volcano continues to cause air traffic chaos across Western Europe as an ash cloud keeps planes grounded. The third man, surprise success for Liberal Democrat leader Nick Clegg in the UK's first ever live election debate. And President Obama's aiming for Mars. He reveals US space policy to land on the red planet by 2035.
Northern Europe remains a no-fly zone because of this massive plume of ash and smoke. Fears over the dangers posed by clouds of ash from a volcano in Iceland have sparked unprecedented airport closures. Hundreds of thousands of passengers are stranded. As the cloud moves eastwards, mild winds have kept it very dense, making it a threat to planes. Several countries completely closed their airspace, including the UK, Denmark and Sweden.
There are no easy options here. This eruption it may stop tomorrow, but it may continue to disrupt air traffic for weeks or months.
It's dangerous for aircraft to come into contact with the volcanic ash because particles of rock, glass or sand could jam the plane's engines. As the cloud progresses, the disruption has spread to other countries, including France and Germany.
European travellers must be getting frustrated with 2010 after being left stranded once again. With memories of the snow disruption only just fading, the volcano in Iceland is the latest obstacle to people trying to get away or make their way home. With airspace closed over many countries, chaos ensued at airports like Schiphol in Amsterdam.
When we arrived here, they just gave out vouchers for €10. Can you buy for €10? We asked for help to try and find a hotel. Everyone's busy. Everyone's in the same situation.
It's the world's second busiest airport, but with all flights grounded at London's Heathrow, thousands of passengers were going nowhere.
All flights have been cancelled and nobody really to tell you what to do, where to go. It's really, really bewildering.
At Charles de Gaulle in Paris, this man was rather philosophical. We can't do anything about things that happen in the earth or in the sky. We're only humans. It's believed as many as 5,000 flights were disrupted on Thursday, affecting tens of thousands of people worldwide. And restrictions won't be lifted before Friday afternoon.
Iceland's erupting volcano shows no signs of immediately abating, but experts are playing down the health risks of an ash fallout over Europe. Despite the activity causing chaos to air travel, volcanologists say what's happening is relatively small.
Well, in volcanological terms, this is not a particularly big eruption. It's not even a particularly big eruption for Iceland. And the Hekla eruption in 2000 was substantially bigger. We could give these things a volcano explosive index. That eruption was about 3. For this one, certainly the initial phases were down at about 1.
Hot fumes are melting vast amounts of ice at the glacier the volcano lies under. Scientists say that's exacerbating the ash cloud.
What's different about it is that it's erupting through an ice cap. This is generating lots of meltwater, which is causing all this glassy material which is being ejected high up into the atmosphere and causing all the problems.
To the east of the volcano, large swathes of land have been covered by a thick layer of ash. The sun has also been blotted out in areas along Iceland's southern coast. Around 700 people were evacuated on Wednesday. They're reported to be sheltered at Red Cross centres nearby. The UK's 3 main political party leaders have locked horns in an historic TV debate. The trio clashed on issues including the economy, crime and immigration. Despite insisting his party were the only real alternative, Liberal Democrat leader Nick Clegg urged unity.
I would say it's worth the politicians just setting aside their political differences for once and trying to come up with a solution that everybody can agree with. We've all got different ideas. We have ideas, proposals, that there's a contribution from the individual and the state. David Cameron has ideas which help some but doesn't help people in their home. Gordon Brown has some ideas which help some of the most needy but not others. Why don't we, for once, given this is something which I think is bigger than any other party, actually work together? We had some of this in the previous...
On the economy, Conservative leader David Cameron attacked the Labour government's tax plans.
If you put a tax on jobs, that, I think, is a jobs killer, it's a recovery killer, it's an economy killer. So I think we've got to remove this dark cloud of the deficit over our economy, and it makes sense to make a start on that now. Make a start this year to avoid the tax next year, and then we can go forward with further plans to remove our deficit and our debt.
But current Prime Minister Gordon Brown hit back. He insisted Tory plans to cut spending would threaten any recovery.
The risk to the economy is this year, and every country, America, the rest of Europe, including Britain, is saying we've got to make sure we invest in the economy this year so that we can have the growth we need. Now, pull out the money, and you've proposed it at every point during this recession. Pull out the money, and you'll have less growth, you'll have less jobs, and you will have less businesses. Now, that's the fear. We've got to take an overall responsibility for the whole economy.
Most polls and pundits judged Clegg the winner. The debate, one of three before the May 6 election, is the first in UK electoral history and is being seen as marking a new era in British politics.
More bodies of those killed in last weekend's plane crash have arrived back in Poland. Most of the 96 victims have now been flown home from Russia, including President Lech Kaczynski on Sunday, followed by his wife on Tuesday. They lay in state alongside each other in the presidential palace. However, some people are now angry at what they see as an overly emotional response to the tragedy. Plans to bury the president at Wawel Hill near Wawel Cathedral have been met with opposition. The cathedral is the traditional site for Polish royalty, and not everyone believes Kaczynski deserves to be buried there. The state funeral will take place this Sunday, though funerals for some of the other victims have already taken place. Suspicion is also mounting about the cause of the plane crash, with complaints about a lack of public information. The aircraft came down in dense fog in western Russia while trying to land, killing everyone on board, including politicians and military officials.
Campaigners who claim they suffered violence and abuse in German children's homes in the 50s and 60s have staged a graphic demonstration in Berlin. They say local authorities and the church turned a blind eye to beatings and sexual abuse. We must go public now. We must put pressure on the politicians and force them out of their comfort zone. We'll force them to finally acknowledge us. We'll not stop putting pressure on them. We'll continue saying, hello, we're here. Why are you ignoring us? Start listening now.
Werden wir versuchen, Druck zu machen und zu sagen, hallo, hier sind wir. Warum hört ihr uns nicht zu oder hört uns endlich zu?
It comes as the German government and the Catholic Church met to bury the hatchet after recent curt exchanges. The Justice Minister and one of the country's senior archbishops agreed a way of speeding up the procedure for dealing with priests accused of abuse. The Catholic Church is undergoing a process of change, she says, and work is ongoing to change the legal framework. Abusive graffiti has been daubed on the house in the southern German state of Bavaria in which Pope Benedict XVI was born. Police say the writing appeared to be linked to the sexual abuse scandals that have engulfed the Catholic Church, but would give no more details.
3 engines up and ready. 0. Booster ignition.
US President Barack Obama has said sending astronauts beyond the moon and into deep space should be possible by 2025. Obama said the revamped space policy ultimately aimed to pave the way for a manned Mars mission. Speaking at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida, Obama attempted to answer critics by promising some €4.5 billion in extra funding for NASA over the next 5 years.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit. And by 2025, we expect new spacecraft designed for long journeys to allow us to begin the first ever crewed missions beyond the moon into deep space. By the mid-2030s, I believe we can send humans to orbit Mars and return them safely to Earth. And a landing on Mars will follow. And I expect to be around to see it.
Obama has come under heavy criticism from the likes of Neil Armstrong after NASA killed the Constellation program in March, developed under the Bush administration. The Apollo 11 great and opponents have also said US missions to the International Space Station will be reliant on Russian goodwill until NASA's new spaceships are ready. Now a look at